Morning all. Going to spend a few moments talking about a cluster today, but don't freak out. This is actually a very good cluster. I've got a cluster of clients who are doing really well this year against significant headwinds, which we've all heard about. And this group of clients, they're growing, they're expanding, they're launching, they're getting smashed with new inquiries, they're recruiting new staff currently to cope up with new business and new orders. Their advertising metrics are doing things that I've never seen before. So for the benefit of those out there who are finding the going pretty tough at the moment, I wanted to start sharing some of the things that these types of businesses are doing. And one thing in particular they all have in common is they're personalizing their marketing. So they're using personalization as a key tactic. And personalization and personalizing your marketing removes a number of significant barriers to growth and development and being able to move forward. And I find this area of strategy absolutely fascinating because if you look at the barriers that I've got up on the screen, they're actually all psychological barriers. And of course, the psychology of marketing is not recognized as much as it should. But it just goes to show how these barriers all sit quietly in the background and really inhibit your ability to move forward and grow and develop your business and target your market. And of course, especially during challenging times, they basically cause your business to come to a screaming halt. So let's have a look at the first one. The first one is talking about comfort zone. So one great thing that personalization does is it actually gets you out of your comfort zone. So one thing that I find that is very common is that people market their business within their comfort zone. What I mean by that is generally people's understanding and knowledge about their business and their products and services is technically sound, but they don't go any further than that. So what they do is their marketing ends up talking about outputs, not outcomes, but people are only interested in outcomes. They're not actually interested in outputs. So if you make a water pump and it's the world's fastest, most high capacity, energy efficient water pump on the market, what does your marketing tell people, of course? That it's the fastest and most high capacity and most cost effective. And of course, people say, well, what does that mean for me? So what you need to do is you need to get out of your comfort zone and shift the context of what you're saying, shift the context of your marketing, and personalize the process of going through personalizing your messaging is a great way of getting that transition to happen. So what we find is that when people start the journey of personalizing their message, it starts to unlock that transition, and we find that instantly people start to speak more freely about what they're trying to achieve with their business, and they start to automatically and just this natural transition of talking about what they're trying to achieve, why they're trying to achieve it, what the vision and the focus is of the business and the products and services from the customer's perspective. And that's exactly what people want to hear, which leads to number two, being able to evaluate you. So people want to hear outcomes because outcomes are the only hope they have of being able to evaluate your business and evaluate what you're offering them. So basically a lot of marketing, well, most marketing that I see really misses the mark on this. It doesn't, your marketing has to help people evaluate what you've got to offer. And so outcomes from their perspective, in their context, is what you need to be talking about. So by removing that barrier and allowing people to evaluate your offering, you'll find that they are able to move forward with your business. The next one is addressing the barrier of time. So in today's congested markets, you've got very limited time for people to evaluate you, assuming that you can provide them with what they need to do that. So by personalizing your messaging, it actually extends that window for you. So people will linger longer. Okay, so if you're talking about outcomes, that leads them into the process of evaluating what you've got to offer. You've actually extended that window. So if people linger longer, the likelihood of them then progressing with you is a lot higher. So this is the game, the psychological game of managing. Your marketing needs to manage people's attention span versus their reaction time. Of course, the other big negative or customer letdown, which is a barrier which addressing the issue of time removes through personalizing your marketing, is that you actually stop wasting people's time. So if you only talk about outputs and you're only talking about yourself, and your marketing sounds as though you're always talking to yourself because you're only focusing on talking about outputs, uh, you're wasting people's time. And people haven't got the time to sit down and look at the technicalities of the outputs that you're describing, trying to learn them and understand them, and then convert that into an understanding of what that means for them. So you can see there also that whilst extending the time that you've got with people, if you sync them into that process of being able to evaluate you, it also you stop wasting people's time, and that is a significant barrier. A lot of company information that you see out there, it is simply wasting people's time, and they're gone. Which leads to the next one is whether or not you're useful. So we talk about, being able to differentiate your message to win over new customers and stand out from the crowd and all those sorts of things. A lot of marketing, or most of the marketing that you see out there, it's actually unhelpful. It's not useful. So a little secret is that to understand that, why people choose certain brands over others, it's because their marketing was the most helpful. Their marketing was useful. So being useful is actually a key differentiator out in the market, given that so many businesses, their marketing simply isn't helpful. So personalization in that respect is actually a really, really good differentiator. So as we move through removing these barriers that we're talking about now, the reaction from people is actually very, very instant. And that's what this group of clients are finding this year. Despite challenging times, you remove these psychological barriers and open up and free up and unlock the ability for people to understand you, learn about you, and deal with you. The reaction, even in challenging times, is absolutely instant. So I mentioned before about understanding. So look, if a business and their customers don't understand each other, a transaction is not going to occur. So by removing those barriers, some of those other barriers that I spoke about before, it builds that common understanding between business and customer, and that enables them to transact. So if they feel that they are in a relationship where everyone understands each other, you understand their problem or their need, they understand that you have the right solution that you're offering. Basically, that de-risks the transaction. So a lack of understanding at this point of the relationship is a significant barrier, and it's quite confusing for a lot of businesses. They kind of get to this point, they think they're doing well, and the customer still won't transact because the customer doesn't feel that there's a common understanding that then enables them to de-risk that transaction and simply hand over their money for the product or service that you're offering. So the final barrier that I just wanted to talk about today is, once again, as I said, these are all very psychological. It's very interesting. Is enjoyment. So a big barrier to people doing marketing and persevering with their marketing and continuing on with their marketing strategies is simply a lack of enjoyment that comes from all of those other barriers that keep appearing and detract from the effectiveness and the return on investment and the results achieved. And so marketing tends to get a bad rap, but what people are reacting to is that they don't enjoy marketing. But we find that if you use personalization and personalizing your messaging and adopting that tactic, and you start to remove the barriers, get out of your comfort zone, um, marketing becomes a whole lot more enjoyable, and we find that people then continue on with it. And so, what comes with enjoyment is consistency, and consistent marketing, consistently good marketing, brings consistent results. And of course, that becomes enjoyable as well. So it kind of all becomes self-fulfilling at the end there, using personalization to remove these barriers that I've spoken about today. Um, so look, as I said, this is for the benefit of those that might be finding it pretty tough out there at the moment, and looking for a different perspective and different tactics that can be used to remove barriers and start to move forward. Anyone else that's watching this and you've got something else to contribute, as I said, it's all about sharing this for the benefit of others. So please feel free to contribute in the comments down below. So I hope to bring a number of these over the coming weeks, as I said, talking about what others are doing well, how others are doing well, what they're doing, and if you can take something out of that, well, that's fantastic. Well, I'm off for a surf now. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and yeah, we'll do another presentation shortly. Toodle pip.